After their mother's funeral, the twins, boy and girl, received very different inheritances. One got 3 luxurious homes, and the girl, an old painting, and then this happened. After their mother's funeral, the twins, a boy and a girl, were left with very different fates. The son received 3 mansions, while the daughter got only an old, faded painting wrapped in dusty cloth. Her husband laughed the loudest that day. "So that's your grand inheritance? A piece of trash on canvas? Maybe she finally saw how useless you are." He mocked her, calling her the poor twin, refusing to let her forget it, until one night, in a fit of drunken rage, he smashed the painting against the wall. From the cracked frame, a small rusted key tumbled out, one that would unlock a vault holding the real inheritance their mother had hidden. And in that moment, the man who laughed last realized the joke was on him. Hello, family. Welcome back. Before we dive in, I have a favor that means the world. Hit that subscribe button. Every click isn't just a number. It's a spark that keeps these stories alive, voices heard, and shared truths that might otherwise go unnoticed. And while you're at it, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Because together, we're not just sharing stories, we're building a community, spreading hope, and proving that every voice matters. Don't just watch, be part of something bigger. The church bells rang slow and heavy, each toll echoing through the gray November sky. Rain dripped from the black umbrellas gathered outside St. Andrew's, turning the gravel path into thin streams of mud. Evelyn Hales stood by the fresh grave with her hands clasped tight around a single white rose. She didn't cry. Her brother Daniel did, loudly, dramatically, the way he did everything. His tears looked expensive somehow, like they were meant for an audience. Their mother, Marion Hales, had been gone just 6 days. The woman who raised them, who kept the family business alive through 2 recessions, who smiled even when her heart was breaking. She'd been strong her whole life, but in the end, even strength had limits. Evelyn felt numb, not from grief exactly, more like from disbelief. She'd always imagined her mother as unshakable. To see her name carved in stone now made something cold twist inside her. Daniel put his arm around her shoulders as the priest's final words faded. "You okay, Evie?" His voice was soft, but there was something rehearsed about it. "I'm fine," she said quietly. "You don't look fine," he added, squeezing her arm a little too hard. "But don't worry, I'll take care of everything, just like Mom wanted." The words stung. Just like Mom wanted. Evelyn didn't answer. She watched the last bit of dirt fall onto the coffin and wondered if Daniel believed half the things he said. Their mother's lawyer, Mr. Benton, approached with a polite cough. "Mr. and Mrs. Hales, the reading of your mother's will is scheduled for this afternoon at her residence. If you'd like a few hours to rest—" Daniel cut him off. "No need for that, Benton. We'll handle it now. Let's get it over with." Evelyn looked at him. "Daniel, maybe we should wait." "Why? You think Mom's going to come back and change it?" His smile was thin. "You always did like to delay bad news." Benton hesitated. "It's entirely your decision. We can meet at the house in an hour." Daniel nodded. "Perfect. I'll bring my wife. Evelyn, you'll be there too, I assume?" Evelyn just nodded. As Daniel walked away, his wife Tessa trailing behind in heels that didn't belong anywhere near a graveyard, Evelyn caught a glimpse of her reflection in the rain-slicked car window. Pale, tired, eyes rimmed red but dry, she barely recognized herself. Marcus stood by the gate, phone in hand, scrolling like nothing about this day mattered. When she approached, he slipped the phone into his pocket and forced a sympathetic smile. "That was rough," he said. "She was your mother-in-law," Evelyn said quietly. I know. Great woman, really." His tone didn't match his words. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. "You ready to go? I'm starving. Haven't eaten since breakfast." Her chest tightened. It's not about food, Marcus. We're heading to the will reading. Yeah, he said, brushing off her tone. Maybe she left you something nice, huh? He said it half joking, half hopeful. Evelyn didn't respond. The family mansion stood on a hill at the edge of town, its tall windows staring out over the valley like silent eyes. The air smelled faintly of pine and rain as they entered the front hall. Everything was just as their mother had left it. The framed photos, the crystal vase of faded roses, the piano that hadn't been played in years. Mr. Benton waited in the sitting room, documents spread neatly across the coffee table. Daniel was already there, pouring himself a drink from their mother's cabinet. Tessa lounged beside him, scrolling through her phone with a bored expression. "Glad you made it," Daniel said, swirling his whiskey. "Let's make this quick. I've got a dinner reservation." Evelyn sat down, her hands clasped tight. Mr. Benton cleared his throat. "Your mother was a remarkable woman. She left specific instructions that her estate be divided as follows." He adjusted his glasses and began to read. "To my beloved son, Daniel Hales, I leave the following. The family's 3 residential properties located in Maplewood, Crestview, and Lakehurst. In addition, full control of Hales Enterprises and all associated shares." Daniel grinned, raising his glass in a mock toast. "Knew she loved me best." Evelyn stared at the lawyer, waiting for her name. Mr. Benton continued. "To my daughter, Evelyn Hales, I leave one item of personal significance, a painting titled The Lightkeeper, located in my private study. It is my wish that she keep it safe." The silence that followed was painful. Daniel tried not to laugh. Tessa didn't bother hiding hers. Marcus blinked, then let out a small chuckle. "Wait, that's it? A painting?" Mr. Benton looked uncomfortable. "That is correct." Daniel leaned forward, pretending concern. "Evelyn, that must be disappointing. But hey, art can be valuable, right?" "Sure," Marcus said with a smirk, "if you can find someone who wants a dead woman's wall decoration." "Marcus," Evelyn warned softly. "What? I'm just saying, 3 mansions versus 1 painting? It's not exactly fair, is it?" Daniel laughed outright this time. "Maybe it's symbolic. Mom always said Evelyn had an eye for beauty." Evelyn's cheeks burned. She looked down, her voice barely above a whisper. "She must have had her reasons." Tessa tilted her head. "Probably sentimental. Some people only get attached to useless things." Mr. Benton shifted uncomfortably, closing the folder. "That concludes the formal reading. Mrs. Hales did, however, request that I give this directly to you, Evelyn." He handed her a small beige envelope, sealed and unmarked. Evelyn took it, fingers trembling slightly. "Thank you." Daniel stood, buttoning his jacket. "Well, that's that. Guess I've got some keys to collect." He clapped Marcus on the shoulder as he passed. "You and I should talk, brother-in-law. You might need a place to stay soon." Marcus forced a laugh. "Ha! Good one." When they left, Evelyn sat alone on the couch, staring at the envelope. She opened it carefully. Inside was a small piece of paper, blank, no writing, no message. "Figures," Marcus said, walking over, "even her secret letter's empty." Evelyn tilted the paper toward the window. Something shimmered faintly, barely visible, thin, pale words hidden in the fibers. She angled it more until she could read the faint writing. "When darkness wins, follow the Lightkeeper's path." Her heart skipped. "Marcus, look!" But he'd already turned away, refilling his glass from the cabinet. "You're seeing things. It's probably some old ink stain." Evelyn folded the note and tucked it into her pocket. "No, it's something. Mom never did things out by accident." Marcus downed the whiskey in one swallow. Well, Maybe she did this time. The rain started again outside, tapping softly against the tall windows. Evelyn walked to the study. The painting hung where it always had, above the fireplace. A man with a lantern stood near a stormy sea, his face shadowed but steady, guiding light cutting through darkness. She remembered sitting under that painting as a child while her mother told her stories. "A lightkeeper never abandons the tower," her mother used to say, "no matter how dark the night gets." Evelyn's chest ached. She turned to leave, but Marcus's voice followed her. "You're really taking that thing, huh?" "It's what she left me," Evelyn said. He scoffed. "You sure she didn't just forget to throw it out?" "Marcus, stop." He laughed again. "Come on, honey, don't get all serious. It's a painting. You're acting like it's some holy relic." "It mattered to her," Evelyn said, her voice shaking now. "Maybe it means something." "Yeah," he muttered, pouring another drink. "It means she liked your brother better." Her throat tightened. Don't what? Pretend she didn't? She left him everything, money, houses, the company, and— "You got a picture frame." He let out a bitter laugh. "Guess I married the wrong twin." The words hit her like a slap. She turned away before he could see the tears forming. "You should go," she said quietly. "Fine. You stay here and talk to your painting. I'm going to get a real drink." He left the room. Evelyn sat in the dim light, staring at the flicker of the fireplace under the painting. The man with the lantern looked almost alive now, his faint outline shimmering in the glow. Follow the lightkeeper's path. What did it mean? She stayed there until the fire went out. The house was silent except for the ticking of the old clock. When Marcus returned, his footsteps were uneven, heavy. The sharp smell of alcohol reached her before his voice did. "So," he said, leaning against the doorway, glass in hand. "You still sitting here crying over a painting?" Evelyn didn't look up. "Please don't start." "Oh, come on. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Your brother's out celebrating his new empire, and you're sitting here broke, hugging a piece of canvas." "I'm not broke," she said softly. "Sure you are. I saw the will, remember?" He laughed, loud and sharp. 3 mansions versus 1 painting? You really lost the family lottery, sweetheart." "Marcus, no, really, I mean it. What's next? You gonna hang that thing in the living room and pray it starts spitting out gold?" "Stop it." He took another drink. "It's pathetic, Evelyn. You spent your whole life trying to prove you were just as good as him, and look how that turned out. Maybe your mom finally saw the truth." Evelyn stood, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," he said, stepping closer. "She saw you for what you are, useless, always clinging to people stronger than you. First your mom, now me." Her hands trembled. "Don't you dare talk about her that way." He smirked. "Or what? You'll cry? Paint me a sad picture?" Something inside her snapped. "You're drunk." "Damn right I am," he said, raising his glass. "Drunk enough to say what I really think. You've been nothing but dead weight since the day we got married." "Marcus, please." "Please what? Stop telling the truth?" He gestured toward the fireplace. "That painting's the perfect gift for you, useless and sentimental." She took a step back, shaking. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest," he said. "You want to feel better? Sell it. Maybe you'll get a few bucks." "I'm not selling it." "Why not? Because Mommy said to keep it safe?" He laughed again, a harsh sound that didn't belong in the quiet house. "Guess that's the only thing she trusted you with, something worthless." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "Stop it." "Make me." She turned away, her shoulders shaking. "You don't understand anything about her, about what she meant." He sneered. "I understand she loved Daniel more, That's all there is to understand. Evelyn spun around, her voice rising. You're wrong! She left me this for a reason. You just can't see it because you only care about money. He laughed again. Then maybe I'll take a closer look at your treasure. Maybe it's hiding a check behind the frame. Marcus, don't! He stepped toward the fireplace, glass in one hand, the other reaching for the painting. Evelyn froze. Marcus, I mean it. Don't touch that. He grinned. Relax. Just giving it a little inspection. Marcus! He yanked the painting from the wall. Dust rained down from behind the frame. See? Nothing but old nails and wood. Real jackpot. Put it back, she said. Now! He shook his head. No. I think I'll keep it somewhere safe, like the trash. She moved forward to stop him, but he was already turning. He flung the painting across the room in a fit of rage. It hit the corner of the table with a dull crack. The sound made them both freeze. Something had broken inside the frame. Evelyn stared, her breath catching. What did you do? Marcus looked down at the cracked wooden edge. A small metallic glint peeked from within the split frame. He frowned. What the hell is that? Evelyn knelt, her shaking hands prying the wood apart. A tiny key fell out, landing with a faint clink against the floor. And beside it, folded tight, a small piece of yellowed paper. Evelyn picked it up, heart pounding. She unfolded it slowly. 2 lines of faded handwriting stared back at her. Bank of Hales, box number 317. She looked up at Marcus, eyes wide. Marcus, this is... But he was already looking at the key in his hand, his expression unreadable. A box number, he said quietly. At the bank. Evelyn smiled weakly, hope flickering. It must be part of what she left me. Maybe it's important. Maybe it's... Yeah, Marcus interrupted, voice soft but sharp. Maybe it is. He closed his fist around the key. Evelyn didn't notice. She was too busy staring at the broken painting, her mind racing. For the first time that night, something inside her sparked, a mix of grief and determination. Marcus slipped the key into his pocket, his face hardening as he turned away. Outside, the rain had stopped. The night was quiet, too quiet. And somewhere in that silence, the sound of betrayal had already begun. Evelyn barely slept that night. The sound of rain had stopped, but the quiet felt heavier than the storm. She sat on the couch in her robe, staring at the broken painting lying on the floor. The frame was split, the canvas torn slightly at the corner, the sea and lighthouse dim in the dark. She couldn't shake the thought that her mother had hidden the key for a reason. The words on the paper, Bank of Hales, box number 317, played over and over in her head. Maybe it was another message, another test. Her mother had always loved riddles. Marcus came out of the bedroom sometime after midnight. His shirt was unbuttoned, hair messy, eyes glassy from the whiskey he hadn't stopped drinking. You still up? He asked, his voice hoarse. Evelyn didn't look up. I can't stop thinking about what the note means. He walked to the counter, poured another drink, and leaned against it. Maybe it means nothing. You saw it, she said. It was hidden inside the painting. Why would she hide a bank box number if it didn't matter? He shrugged. Maybe she was losing her mind at the end. People do strange things when they know they're dying. Evelyn turned to him, her face pale but determined. Don't talk about her like that. He rolled his eyes. You really think your mother left you some secret treasure? Come on, Evelyn. It's over. She made her choice. Daniel got everything. You got a painting that's now in pieces. Evelyn stood, her voice trembling but steady. Then I'll go to the bank tomorrow and find out what's in that box. Marcus stared at her for a moment, then smiled. You can try. I will. He drained his glass and set it down with a sharp clink. "Suit yourself, but don't get your hopes up. You'll only make a fool of yourself." Evelyn didn't answer. She gathered the pieces of the painting and laid them carefully on the table, as if protecting what little of her mother she still had. Marcus watched her for a while, then walked away, his expression unreadable. In bed later, Evelyn tossed and turned. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the key, small and rusted, glinting in Marcus's hand. She tried to remember if she had taken it from him, but she couldn't. Her mind was foggy. Maybe she'd dropped it. Maybe he still had it. Around 2 a.m, Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her sleeping face. The key lay cold in his palm. He turned it over between his fingers, eyes narrowing. Bank of Hales. He knew that name. His father had once done business there years ago, before the place became known for serving the wealthy elite, private safes, anonymous clients, no questions asked. If her mother had something hidden there, it could be worth a fortune. Marcus stood quietly, slipped into his jacket, and grabbed his car keys. He took one last look at Evelyn asleep in the faint moonlight, her face soft, peaceful, unaware. He smiled faintly. "Sleep well, sweetheart," he whispered. "I'll take care of it." He left without a sound. The drive across town was silent except for the hum of the tires. The rain had washed the streets clean. The reflection of the city lights shimmered on the wet asphalt. Marcus kept glancing at the key on the seat beside him, his mind racing. He imagined opening that safety box and finding stacks of cash, gold, maybe property deeds, anything that would make up for the humiliation of watching Daniel walk away with everything. When he reached the bank, the parking lot was empty except for a single night guard leaning against the wall. Marcus killed the engine, stepped out, and tucked the key into his coat. Inside, the lobby lights were dim. The guard glanced up. "We're closed, sir. You'll have to come back in the morning." Marcus smiled, his voice calm. "I have private access. My name's on a deposit box. Family matter." The guard frowned. "You have authorization paperwork?" Marcus handed over the paper he had taken from Evelyn's table earlier, the note that read, "Bank of Hales, box number 317. "It's urgent," he said. "It's under my wife's name, Evelyn Hales. She asked me to retrieve it tonight before travel tomorrow." The guard hesitated, then sighed. "I can't open anything myself, but Mr. Warren is still in his office upstairs. He handles private safes." "Perfect," Marcus said smoothly. The guard called ahead, and minutes later, Marcus was led down a quiet hallway. The air grew colder as they descended to the vault level. The floors gleamed under harsh fluorescent lights. A thin man in a gray suit met him at the door. "Mr. Hales, you're here for box 317? "Yes," Marcus said. "Family emergency. My wife couldn't make it." The man nodded, though his expression was skeptical. "Do you have identification?" Marcus handed him his driver's license and the note with the box number. "Everything should be in order. The key's here." The banker studied the key. It was old, bronze, the bank's insignia faintly visible on the edge. He inserted it into a small console, and a green light blinked. "Box 317, he confirmed. "It's active. Please follow me." Marcus's pulse quickened as he followed the man into a wide room filled with hundreds of metal drawers, each numbered in gold. The faint scent of steel and polish hung in the air. The man stopped at the far wall and gestured. "Here we are. Please use your key." Marcus hesitated for a split second, then slid the key into the small lock. It fit perfectly. With a soft click, the door released. He pulled the narrow box from the wall and placed it on the table. The banker nodded. "Take all the time you need." Then he stepped away, waiting near the door. Marcus lifted the lid slowly. Inside lay a sealed brown envelope, a folded piece of paper, and something metallic that caught the light. He reached for the envelope first, The handwriting on it was unmistakable. Marion Hales. For Evelyn. He stared at the name, jaw tightening. His thumb ran over the letters as a thought crossed his mind. If she never knows what's in here, it's not really stealing. He tore the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, an official document. He unfolded it carefully, his breath catching as he read the title. Property deed, Lightkeeper Hill Estate. Marcus's eyes widened. Lightkeeper Hill. He'd never heard of it, but the document listed the location, a private coastal property, unregistered, deeded directly to Evelyn Hales. The estimated value made his throat go dry. He looked down again and noticed the metallic item lying in the corner of the box. It was a small gold tag with a number engraved on it, 0419. Beneath it lay another folded note. He opened it slowly. Evelyn, if you've found this, then Daniel has already taken everything else. This is the real inheritance I've kept hidden for you. It is not for them. Keep it secret and keep it safe. Marcus's hands trembled slightly. He read the note again, slower this time. His mind raced. He thought about Daniel, rich, arrogant, untouchable, and himself, mocked, broke, stuck with a wife who had nothing. But this changed everything. The banker cleared his throat quietly. Is everything satisfactory, sir? Marcus folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. Yes, he said. Everything's perfect. He placed the documents back in the envelope and resealed it as neatly as he could. Then he looked at the gold tag again, small and shining like a promise. He pocketed that too. When he turned back, his face was calm, his voice steady. Thank you for your help. My wife will be relieved. The banker nodded politely. Of course, I'll log the access in the system. Safe travels. Marcus smiled faintly. Oh, I'll be traveling soon. He walked out into the cool night air, his pulse racing. The sky was clearing, thin streaks of moonlight cutting through the clouds. He stopped by his car, opened the envelope again under that, the street light, and looked at the deed one more time. Lightkeeper Hill Estate. He could almost see it, an oceanfront mansion, maybe. Hidden money, maybe accounts tied to the property. He didn't know exactly what it was, but he knew one thing for sure. It was worth more than anything Evelyn could imagine. He laughed quietly to himself. All that crying over a painting, he muttered. She really had no idea. He folded the papers carefully, tucking them into his coat. The gold tag glimmered in his hand, catching the light. Marcus smiled, slow and satisfied. Looks like I just became a rich man. He started the car, the engine humming softly in the empty lot. As he drove off, the reflection of the bank lights faded in the rearview mirror, small and distant, like the last flicker of conscience he'd ever have. Inside the quiet house across town, Evelyn turned over in her sleep, her hand reaching toward the empty spot beside her. The painting lay on the table, the lighthouse dim under the lamp, its light almost gone. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting subscribe. Every story we share is a spark of hope, giving a voice, a future, and a chance to children and women who have faced abuse all over the world. Support us by subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you never miss a story that truly matters. And we want to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from and how this story touched you. Together, we're not just watching stories unfold, we're keeping hope alive. Evelyn woke to an empty house. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside damp and shining under a pale morning sun. For a few seconds, she forgot about the night before, the stouting, the painting, the key. But then she saw the broken frame on the table, and it all came rushing back. The silence felt strange. Marcus's side of the bed was cold. His car keys were gone. So was the small key from the painting. Evelyn sat on the edge of the couch, staring at her phone. She wanted to call him, to demand shining answers, but she didn't want another fight. Not yet. Maybe he'd gone to cool off. Maybe he'd stog on to get breakfast. But deep down, something told her he wasn't coming back soon. She reached into her robe pocket and pulled out the note again. The handwriting looked smaller side now, more fragile somehow. Bank of Hales, box number 317. She whispered the words softly, as if they'd answer her. The front door creaked open an hour later. Marcus walked in like nothing had happened. He looked freshly showered, clean-shaven, the faint smell of expensive cologne replacing the sour scent of whiskey from last night. "Where were you?" she asked quietly. He set his coat down and kissed her cheek. "Out, thinking. You were asleep." "I woke up," she said. "The key's gone." He smiled faintly, slipping off his watch. "Relax, I took it to the bank." Her heart stopped. "You what?" "Yeah, I figured I'd check out that box for you, save you the trouble." "You opened it?" "Sure did." He leaned against the counter, his eyes calm and unreadable. "It was nothing, just some old paperwork. Your mom probably forgot about it years ago." Evelyn frowned. "What kind of paperwork?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Business stuff, bank statements, legal notes, whatever. Nothing important." She stared at him, trying to read his face. "You're lying." "Come on, Evelyn, don't start that again. I can tell when you're lying," he smirked. "Can you? Then tell me what I'm hiding." She didn't answer. She couldn't. Her pulse was racing, but her mind felt slow, foggy. Marcus poured himself a cup of coffee and sat at the table, calm as ever. "Look, if it helps you, sleep. I'll go back tomorrow with you. You can see for yourself that there's nothing there." "Fine," she said softly. "Good," he smiled, sipping his coffee. "Now let's try to have a normal day, huh? No more secrets." But that night, while Evelyn tried to piece together her mother's last words, Marcus sat alone in the study, with the documents spread across the table. The gold tag glinted under the lamp. He reread the letter again and again, almost unable to believe it. "This vault holds the key to the true inheritance, Lightkeeper Hill. Keep it from Daniel until Evelyn is ready." He whispered the words slowly, tasting each one like fine wine. Lightkeeper Hill. He'd searched it online earlier. It was real, a private coastal estate, secluded, valuable, the kind of place that sold for millions. He leaned back in the chair, grinning to himself. "Sorry, Marion," he muttered. "Evelyn will never be ready." He folded the letter carefully and tucked it into his jacket. Then he pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found Daniel's number. It rang twice before Daniel answered. "Marcus," Daniel said, his tone cool. "Didn't expect to hear from you." "Yeah, I bet. Listen, I've got something you'll want to hear." "I doubt that." "You sure? Because it's about Lightkeeper Hill." There was a pause. Then Daniel's voice sharpened. "What did you just say?" "Lightkeeper Hill," Marcus repeated. "Your mother's little secret. Turns out she left it to Evelyn." Silence, then a low chuckle. "That's impossible. I've got the deed in my hands." Daniel's laugh turned bitter. "She always did like her games. What's your point?" "My point," Marcus said slowly, "is that I can make it ours." Daniel didn't respond right away. Then he said, "Go on." "You and I both know Evelyn isn't built for this. She'll never handle legal paperwork, contracts, transfers, all that. But I can. I already have a signed power of attorney from her, old one, from before we were married. I can move the property into my name before she even finds out it exists." "And what do I get out of it?" Daniel asked. "Half," Marcus said. 50-50. We sell it quietly. You cover the legal side, I'll handle Evelyn." Daniel was silent for a moment. Then he said, "You're a dangerous man, Marcus." Marcus smiled. "So are you." "Send me the proof," Daniel said finally. "If it checks out, we'll talk." Marcus ended the call, his grin widening. He picked up the gold tag again and held it to the light. The number shimmered faintly. 0419. He had no idea what it meant, but he'd figure it out. Whatever it was, it belonged to him now. The next afternoon, he met Daniel at a hotel bar downtown. Daniel looked like he hadn't slept, his suit immaculate as always. He ordered whiskey without asking. "Show me," Daniel said. Marcus slid the envelope across the table. "Original deed, and the letter. Read it yourself." Daniel read in silence, jaw tightening. Unbelievable. All this time she hid an estate worth millions and gave it to her? Marcus leaned back, satisfied. "Guess she thought Evelyn deserved something." Daniel smirked. "Well, she doesn't." "Then we agree," Marcus said, raising his glass. "Here's to fixing her mistake." They clinked glasses. 50-50, Daniel said. "Deal." They drank, sealing their agreement with quiet malice. Later that night, Marcus came home humming softly. Evelyn was in the living room, sitting cross-legged on the floor, sorting through her mother's old photo albums. "You're in a good mood," she said. "Just had a meeting." "With who?" "Client." "What client?" "Does it matter?" he said, loosening his tie. "Lately, everything matters," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You're getting paranoid, sweetheart." She looked down at the photos. One caught her eye. A picture of her mother standing by a tall, white lighthouse overlooking a rocky cliff. Her handwriting covered the bottom of the photo. Lightkeeper Hill, 1983. Evelyn stared at it for a long time. The wind in the picture blew her mother's hair across her face, but she was smiling, proud, alive. She flipped it over. On the back, faint pencil marks read, "For my daughter, when she's ready." Her heart pounded. Lightkeeper Hill. The same name Marcus had mentioned that morning when she'd asked what was in the bank box. He'd said some estate paperwork. She hadn't caught it at first, but now she remembered. She looked up. "Marcus, what did you say the documents were called?" He froze for half a second. "What documents?" "The ones from the bank. You said something about property. What was the name again?" "I don't know. Some old estate. Doesn't matter." "It was Lightkeeper Hill, wasn't it?" He laughed. "You've really got to stop snooping, Evelyn." She stood slowly. "I'm not snooping. I'm asking about my mother." "Your mother's dead," he said sharply, "and whatever she left behind is gone. Let it go." Evelyn felt her throat tighten. "I can't." "Well, you should." He walked out of the room, but Evelyn didn't move. Her hand trembled as she held the photograph. The next morning, Marcus told her he had to go on a business trip. "Won't be gone long," he said, kissing her forehead. "Don't wait up." She watched him leave from the window. His car disappeared down the street. She stood there for a long time, heart racing. An hour later, she picked up her phone to call the bank. "Hi, this is Evelyn Hales. I'm trying to check the status of a safety deposit box, number 317. There was a pause on the line. Then the clerk said, "Oh, yes, Mrs. Hales. That box was accessed yesterday evening by your representative." "My what?" Evelyn asked. "Your husband," the clerk replied. "Marcus Hales. He provided authorization and the key." Her voice faltered. Did he remove anything?" "I'm not sure, ma'am, but the box is now listed as closed." Evelyn hung up slowly, her mind spinning. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She walked into the study, scanning the desk. The envelope from the night before was gone. So were her mother's papers. Her knees felt weak. She gripped the chair for balance. "What did you do, Marcus?" she whispered. Later that day, she overheard him on the phone while pretending to fold laundry in the hallway. His voice was low but urgent. "Yeah, the deed's being moved tomorrow," he said. "No, she doesn't know. I told her it was junk. Don't worry, Daniel. It's all handled." Her heart dropped. Daniel, her brother. They were working together. Evelyn's hands shook as she clutched the edge of the wall, For a moment she couldn't breathe. Then something hardened inside her. She grabbed her coat, the photo of her mother, and her car keys. If they thought she'd stay in the dark, they were wrong. She'd find Lightkeeper Hill herself. The highway stretched long and empty ahead of her. Wind whipped through the half-open window, carrying the faint smell of salt and pine. Evelyn's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter as she followed the GPS directions she'd pieced together from her mother's old records. Each mile pulled her closer to something she couldn't yet name. Fear, maybe, or hope. Lightkeeper Hill. The name sounded almost mythical, like a place that didn't belong in the real world. Her mother had written about it in her journals years ago, describing it as her quiet refuge by the sea. Evelyn had never been there, never even heard her mention it aloud. Yet, now it was all she could think about. The road curved sharply, the forest thinning until the ocean appeared, vast and restless, silver waves breaking against jagged cliffs. She slowed the car, her breath catching as the house came into view at the end of the winding path. It wasn't just a house, it was an estate. Tall white columns framed the front porch, their paint weathered but strong. The windows looked out over the sea, catching flashes of light from the clouds. Ivy climbed the stone walls, twisting around the balcony railings. It was old but beautiful, the kind of place that felt alive with memories. Evelyn parked by the gate and stepped out, the wind catching her hair. For a moment she just stood there, taking it in. She could almost imagine her mother walking along that porch, smiling in the sunlight. Then she saw them. 2 cars parked by the entrance, one black, one silver. A man in a suit stood by the front steps, clipboard in hand. And near him, talking and laughing like they owned the world, were Marcus and Daniel. Evelyn froze. Her stomach dropped so fast she thought she might fall. Her pulse roared in her ears. Daniel spotted her first. His smirk spread slowly, almost lazy. "Well, speak of the devil." Marcus turned, and for a brief second, something like guilt flickered across his face. Then it was gone. He smiled. "Evelyn, you found the place." She walked toward them, her steps uneven, heart pounding. "What are you doing here?" Marcus didn't answer right away. He looked at Daniel, who grinned and folded his arms. "Nice view, isn't it?" Daniel said. "Our mother had taste." Evelyn's voice shook. "This is my mother's house. She left it to me." Marcus laughed quietly. "No, sweetheart. She left it to me." "What?" He gestured to the man with a clipboard. "Mr. Raymond here is the estate lawyer. He's initializing the transfer paperwork. The deed is already in my name." Evelyn's eyes widened. "That's impossible." "Nothing's impossible with the right connections," Daniel said, stepping closer. "Marcus handled the legal side. I handled the rest." "You planned this?" Daniel smiled coldly. "Don't look so surprised. You didn't think the world was going to hand you something for free, did you?" Her throat tightened. "That was my mother's wish." "Your mother's wish was complicated," Daniel said, his voice dripping with mock sympathy. "She was sentimental. She didn't think practically. That's where Marcus and I come in." Evelyn turned to Marcus, her voice breaking. "You said there was nothing in the box." He met her eyes calmly. "I lied." She took a step back. "Why?" He sighed. "Because you never saw what was right in front of you. You had your chance to be more than a charity case, Evelyn. You married up, remember? I tried to make life easier for both of us, but you always had to play the saint." Her voice was a whisper. "You stole from me." "I did what I had to do," he said flatly. "You wouldn't understand." Daniel laughed, clapping Marcus on the shoulder. "You see, sister, some of us know how to survive. Some of us make things happen instead of waiting for them to be handed over." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. You're both disgusting. Careful, Daniel warned, his smile fading. You're standing on private property now. This is my mother's land, she shouted. Marcus's tone hardened. Not anymore. It's legally ours. You're trespassing. The words hit her like a slap. She looked at him, her husband, the man she'd once trusted more than anyone. There was no warmth left in his eyes, only calculation. You can't do this, she whispered. We already did. The lawyer looked uneasy but said nothing. He kept flipping through the paperwork, avoiding Evelyn's gaze. Daniel stepped forward, his voice soft but cruel. Don't make a scene, Evie. You don't want people thinking you've lost your mind. Evelyn's breath came in short, shaky bursts. She turned, scanning the property, the porch, the garden, the ocean beyond. It all felt unreal, like she was trapped in a nightmare she couldn't wake from. I'll fight this, she said finally. I'll get it back. Marcus chuckled. Sure you will. With what money? You don't have a job, remember? You don't have anything. Daniel smirked. It's over. Go home. Evelyn's voice cracked. You'll regret this. Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice. You said the same thing the night I broke that painting. Didn't change much, did it? Her chest tightened, tears spilling down her cheeks now. How could you? How could you do this to me? He tilted his head slightly. You were never supposed to have it, Evelyn. You just got lucky. And luck runs out. For a long moment no one spoke. The wind howled against the cliffs, carrying the smell of salt and rain. The sea crashed far below. Finally, the lawyer cleared his throat. Sir, the documents are ready for your signatures. Marcus smiled faintly. Good. Let's finish this. Evelyn stood frozen as they turned away from her, signing papers like it was just another business deal. Something inside her broke. She took one last look at the house, her mother's house, and saw a woman standing near the side path, half hidden by the hedge. Elderly, with silver hair tied neatly in a bun, dressed in a dark coat. The woman watched her quietly, eyes filled with something that looked like sorrow. Evelyn hesitated, then walked toward her. The woman didn't move. When Evelyn got close enough, she saw the faint shine of tears in the older woman's eyes. You knew my mother? Evelyn asked, voice shaking. The woman nodded. I was her caretaker here for many years. Evelyn blinked, her breath catching. Please, you have to help me. They're taking everything. The woman reached out and gently took Evelyn's hand. Her touch was warm, steady. I know who they are. Then you know what they've done. The caretaker looked past her, toward Marcus and Daniel laughing on the porch. Then she leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Your mother said, if this ever happens, don't fight, wait. Evelyn froze. What? The woman's grip tightened slightly. Just wait. Evelyn stared at her, confused, her heart pounding. Wait for what? But the caretaker only gave her a faint, knowing smile and stepped back. Behind them, Marcus called out, his tone mocking. You heard the man, Evelyn. Private property. Time to go. Evelyn turned one last time to the house as the wind whipped through her hair. The caretaker's words echoed in her mind. Don't fight. Wait. She didn't know what it meant yet, but her mother had never been wrong before. She walked away slowly, the sound of the waves crashing behind her like a heartbeat, steady and unrelenting. Evelyn sat alone in her car for a long time after leaving the estate. The wind howled through the cliffs, shaking the trees and rattling the loose gravel under her tires. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, but she couldn't bring herself to start the engine. She replayed every moment in her head. Marcus's smug smile, Daniel's mocking tone, the lawyer's cold detachment. She had thought grief was the worst pain a person could feel. She was wrong. Betrayal hurt deeper. When she finally drove away, her chest felt hollow. The rain began again, soft at first, then heavier, until the windshield blurred into streaks of gray. She pulled over halfway down the road and buried her face in her hands. That's when she noticed the envelope on the passenger seat. It was small, pale yellow, and sealed with the same faded wax her mother used on her letters. She remembered the caretaker, the woman by the hedge, slipping it into her hand and whispering, "Don't fight. Wait." Her fingers shook as she opened it. Inside was a folded piece of thick stationery paper, her mother's handwriting looping elegantly across it. Evelyn read it once, then again, her heart thudding harder each time. "My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, then they've already betrayed you. I'm sorry you had to face it alone. I tried to warn you in my own way, but time was short and I was afraid." Evelyn swallowed hard, blinking through tears. "Daniel is not your brother by blood. He was adopted before you were born, after your father's mistakes threatened to destroy our family name. No one outside the family ever knew. I raised him as my own, but he grew to resent me for hiding the truth. When he discovered it, he used it against me." The words blurred on the page as Evelyn's vision swam. "He blackmailed me, Evelyn. He forced me to rewrite my will in his favor. He threatened to expose everything to the press, to ruin our name, our company, your father's legacy. I thought I could fix it later. I was wrong. Lightkeeper Hill is your true inheritance. I bought it in secret to protect something that belongs to you, something even Daniel can't touch. I hid proof of everything inside the chest under the study floor." Evelyn's breath hitched. Her mother's final line was underlined twice. "Trust no one, not even the man beside you." She sat back in the car seat, the rain pounding on the roof like distant drums. Marcus. Her heart turned to stone. The words confirmed what she already knew in her gut but had refused to admit. Her husband had known all along, about the estate, the will, maybe even about Daniel's secret. And now they had stolen everything together. Evelyn folded the letter carefully and slipped it into her coat pocket. She looked up through the windshield. The sea stretched out in the distance, dark and endless. She whispered, "I'll find it, Mom. Whatever you hid, I'll find it." She drove back toward the small coastal town below the cliffs. The caretaker's cottage sat at the end of a narrow dirt road. Warm light glowed faintly from the window. Evelyn parked outside and knocked gently on the door. The older woman opened it almost immediately, as if she had been expecting her. "I knew you'd come back," the caretaker said softly. Evelyn's eyes filled again. "You knew my mother. You knew about all of this." "I did," the woman said. "Come in before you catch cold." Inside, the cottage smelled faintly of lavender and tea. The walls were lined with old photographs, most of them of the estate, the lighthouse, and a much younger version of her mother smiling in the garden. She loved this place, the caretaker said, following Evelyn's gaze. It was the only place, she said, she could breathe freely. Evelyn sank into a chair by the fire. "She left me a letter. She said there's something hidden under the study floor." The caretaker nodded slowly. "Yes, she told me to protect it if Daniel ever came sniffing around. I didn't think she meant he'd send your husband." Evelyn's voice hardened. "They took everything. They stole the deed, the papers, everything. I have to get it back." The caretaker poured tea into 2 chipped cups. "Your mother was afraid this would happen. She said Marcus had greedy eyes, said he loved what you could offer him, not who you were." Evelyn looked at the flames, the shadows flickering across her face. She was right. The caretaker sat across from her. "Do you have her letter?" Evelyn handed it over. The woman read silently, her expression grave. "I can help you," she said finally, "but you must be careful. The study is locked now. They keep it that way. If they find you there—" "I don't care," Evelyn said. "I need what's inside that chest." The caretaker studied her face for a long time, then nodded. "We'll go tonight, when the lights go out." "Tonight?" "Yes. Marcus and Daniel plan to meet the surveyors tomorrow morning. They'll finalize the property transfer. Once that's done, everything will be gone. You'll have no legal claim left." Evelyn's fingers tightened around the teacup. "Then tonight it is." The caretaker gave a small, sad smile. "You've got your mother's fire, you know that?" she'd be proud. Evelyn looked down. She trusted the wrong people. Maybe, but she also trusted you. For the first time in days, Evelyn felt something other than grief, a faint spark of strength stirring in her chest. When the sky turned black over the ocean that night, she stood outside the caretaker's cottage, in a dark coat, her hair tied back, her mother's letter tucked safely in her pocket. The caretaker, whose name she now knew was Mrs. Lorne, met her by the gate with a flashlight and a small metal crowbar. The two women walked the winding path back to the estate in silence, their footsteps swallowed by the wind. The moonlight shimmered on the cliffs. From a distance, the mansion looked like a ghost of its former self, tall, cold, and watchful. As they neared the back fence, Evelyn's stomach tightened. "Are you sure no one's here?" she whispered. Mrs. Lorne nodded. "They left after sunset, but be quick." They slipped through a gap in the fence, crossed the overgrown garden, and crept toward the side door. The caretaker produced a small key from her coat and unlocked it with a quiet click. Inside, the air was still and cold. The scent of dust and sea salt lingered. Evelyn could almost hear echoes of her mother's laughter in the halls. The caretaker turned off the flashlight, using only the faint moonlight to guide them. "The study's at the end of the hall," she whispered. "Second door on the right." Evelyn followed, her heartbeat loud in her ears. When they reached the study, Mrs. Lorne handed her the crowbar. "Under the rug," she said, "there's a loose plank." Evelyn knelt, pushing the old rug aside. Her hands shook as she searched the floorboards. Finally, she found one with faint scratches along the edge, as if someone had pried it open before. She wedged the crowbar under it and lifted. The board creaked, splitting free with a soft groan. Beneath it, something glinted, a metal corner, dusty but unmistakable. Evelyn froze. "It's here," she whispered. They lifted the heavy chest together and set it on the floor. The metal was old and rusted, the hinges stiff. Evelyn's heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. Mrs. Lorne handed her a small iron key from her pocket. "Your mother gave me this years ago. She said it was for you when the time came." Evelyn took it, her fingers trembling. She slid the key into the lock. It turned with a soft, satisfying click. She hesitated, staring at the lid, her throat tight. "You ready?" the caretaker asked quietly. Evelyn nodded. "Let's see what she wanted me to find." She lifted the lid slowly. Inside, buried beneath layers of faded velvet, were stacks of old papers, notebooks, and sealed envelopes. A bundle of cassette tapes lay on top, each labeled with her mother's neat handwriting. One word repeated across several: Daniel. Evelyn's breath caught. She reached for the first tape, her fingers brushing over the label. Her mother's voice felt suddenly alive in the room. Mrs. Lorne looked at her, eyes wide. "Whatever's in there, Evelyn, it's the truth she died protecting." Evelyn swallowed hard and whispered, "Then we're finally going to hear it." The chest creaked as Evelyn lifted the last layer of fabric, revealing her mother's handwriting on a bundle of old journals tied together with faded ribbon. The smell of age and dust filled the air, mixed with the faint sweetness of lavender, her mother's favorite scent. She sat cross-legged on the floor beside the chest, the moonlight spilling across her hands as she opened the first notebook. The first page was dated 12 years ago. "I'm writing this in secret," the entry began. "Daniel came to see me today. He knows." Evelyn froze. Marcus. Her chest tightened, her pulse racing. She turned to Mrs. Lorne, her voice barely steady. "He knew. Even before she died, he knew." Mrs. Lorne nodded sadly. "I suspected. They met here once. I saw Marcus leaving late at night. Your mother was in tears afterward." Evelyn flipped through more pages, each word sharper than the last. "I changed the will, but I kept the real one hidden. I couldn't bear to leave Evelyn with nothing. If you're reading this, my dear girl, it means they finally came for what wasn't theirs." Evelyn's hands shook. She picked up another envelope from the chest. Inside was a legal document with her mother's signature, her true will. It clearly named Evelyn Hales as the sole heir of Lightkeeper Hill and all assets connected to it. Her breath caught. This is it. This is the proof. Before she could speak again, Mrs. Lorne held up one of the cassette tapes. There's more. Evelyn took the tape, her fingers trembling. On it, in her mother's handwriting, were the words, "For Evelyn, final recording." Mrs. Lorne found an old tape player in the study cabinet. Dust clung to the buttons, but it still worked. The tape clicked into place, and after a moment of static, her mother's voice filled the room. It was soft, trembling, older than Evelyn remembered. "My sweet girl," the voice said. "If you found this, I know you've suffered. I wanted to tell you everything myself, but time wasn't kind to me. Daniel has become a stranger to me, and Marcus, he's not the man you think he is." Evelyn's hand covered her mouth. Tears blurred her eyes. Her mother's voice continued, quieter now. "I saw the way he looked at the money, the way he looked at you. I feared one day he would turn you against yourself. If Marcus ever finds this, before you do, he will destroy everything. But the truth will survive. I made sure of it." The tape crackled. "Remember, Evelyn, the Lightkeeper's duty is to protect the light, even in the darkest storm." Then the tape clicked to silence. Evelyn sat there for a long moment, unable to move. Her mother's voice still echoed in her head. Every word confirmed what she already felt in her bones, that Marcus had never loved her. He had only loved what she could offer. She wiped her face and looked at the documents again. "We have everything we need. Proof of the real will, the journals, her recording. We can stop them." Mrs. Lorne nodded. "We must make copies and get them to the lawyer before morning." Evelyn closed the chest and started to lift it when she heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. Mrs. Lorne's face went pale. "Someone's here." The study door slammed open. Marcus stood in the doorway, his expression cold and unrecognizable. Daniel followed behind him, his smile thin and cruel. "Well, well," Daniel said. "Family reunion." Evelyn froze, her mind spinning. "How did you—" Marcus cut her off. "You really thought you could sneak in here and take what's mine?" "Yours?" she shouted. "This was never yours!" He stepped closer, his eyes dark. "It is now. I transferred the deed this afternoon. The estate belongs to my company. You're standing in my house." Evelyn backed away, her breath shaking. "You forged everything. You and Daniel." "Don't act surprised," Daniel said. "You were always the weak one. You never saw what was right in front of you." Evelyn clutched the letter and the journal to her chest. "You can't hide this. I'll expose you, both." Marcus's jaw tightened. He moved fast, grabbing the chest from her hands and shoving her backward. She hit the edge of the desk, pain shooting up her arm. Mrs. Lorne gasped and tried to help, but Daniel blocked her path. "Take it easy," Marcus said, his tone calm but dangerous. "You're making this harder than it has to be." "You're a thief!" Evelyn cried. "You're stealing from my mother's grave!" He didn't answer. Instead, he opened the chest, rifled through the contents, and pulled out the papers. "This is what you risked your life for? Old notebooks and tapes?" He laughed, shaking his head. "Pathetic." "Don't!" she shouted, lunging forward, but Daniel caught her arm, holding her back. Marcus ripped the journals into pieces, tossing the pages onto the fireplace. "You want to fight me? Fine. Watch your evidence burn." "No!" Evelyn screamed. Mrs. Lorne tried to stop him, but Daniel shoved her aside. The papers caught quickly, flames licking up the sides of the hearth. The smell of burning ink filled the room. Marcus threw the cassette tapes in next, one by one. They hissed and curled in the fire. "Marcus, please!" Evelyn cried. "That's my mother's voice!" He turned to her, his face twisted in anger. Your mother's voice is gone, Evelyn, just like her lies. Daniel watched the flames rise, smiling. Now it's finished. No proof, no claim, no you. The fire crackled, its light flickering across their faces. Evelyn fell to her knees, tears streaming down her cheeks as the papers turned to ash. The last page of her mother's journal blackened and vanished before her eyes. Marcus threw the empty chest to the ground with a crash. "You have nothing left," he said quietly. "No money, no power, no home. You're done." He turned and walked out with Daniel, the sound of their laughter echoing down the hall. The caretaker crawled to Evelyn's side, her voice breaking. "Evelyn, get up, please." But Evelyn didn't move. She just stared at the fire, her body shaking. Her mother's words replayed in her head. The truth will survive. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her grief hardened into something new, something sharper. "I'll make them pay," she whispered. Mrs. Lorne squeezed her shoulder. "We'll find another way." The flames roared higher, lighting the room with a fierce orange glow. Evelyn stood slowly, her face wet but her eyes steady. The reflection of the fire burned in them, fierce, defiant. The camera would have caught it, the moment the broken woman turned to steel. She took one last look at the destroyed chest, then turned toward the far wall. The firelight glimmered across the paneling, revealing something faint, a thin outline she hadn't noticed before. "Wait," she murmured. "What's that?" Mrs. Lorne looked up. "What?" "There." Evelyn pointed to the wall beside the bookcase. The pattern in the wood was slightly off, a narrow seam running vertically. She stepped closer, brushing away dust with her hand. Her fingers found a small indentation near the corner. She pressed it. A hidden panel clicked open. Behind it, a small safe sat embedded in the wall. Its surface was cool and clean, untouched by the time or fire. Mrs. Lorne gasped softly. She hid something else. Evelyn's hands trembled as she turned the dial. To her surprise, it was unlocked. The door swung open with a faint creak. Inside, resting on a velvet cloth, was a single silver USB drive. On it, written in her mother's handwriting, were 3 simple words. "For my daughter." Evelyn stared at it, her face lit by the fire behind her. The glow reflected in her eyes, rage and hope burning together. Evelyn stared at the USB drive in her hand for a long time. The label read, "For my daughter," written in her mother's soft, looping handwriting. The flames behind her had died down to embers, the air heavy with smoke and ashes. She turned the silver drive over in her palm. It felt almost weightless, but she could sense the gravity of it, like it carried the weight of everything she had lost. Mrs. Lorne stood behind her, silent. "Whatever's on that," she said softly, "your mother wanted you to see it when the time was right." Evelyn looked at the smoldering remains of the chest, the papers turned to gray dust. "Then it's time," she said quietly. They took the drive to the caretaker's cottage. The old laptop Mrs. Lorne kept on her kitchen counter was slow. The screen faintly cracked, but it worked. Evelyn plugged the USB in, holding her breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the folder appeared, Lightkeeper files. Inside were several video clips, each labeled with dates and times, all recorded within her mother's final weeks. Evelyn clicked on the first file. Her mother appeared on screen, sitting in the same study where Evelyn had just stood hours ago. The lighting was dim, but her voice was steady. "If you're watching this, my Evelyn, it means the worst has happened," Marion said, her eyes glassy but fierce. "I've left too many things unsaid. I trusted the wrong people, and I fear I may not have the strength to stop them. But I can give you the truth." Evelyn leaned forward, her heart pounding. Marion held up a document, the forged will. "Daniel forced me to sign this. He threatened me with the truth of his adoption, claiming he'd destroy your father's reputation. But I have recordings, notarized statements, and proof of coercion. They're all here." She gestured off camera. "And Marcus, I'm sorry, Evelyn. He came to me pretending to help, but he was working with Daniel. He convinced the lawyer to comply. He said it was for you, to protect your future. But I saw what he wanted. Power." Her mother took a breath, her voice trembling. "I didn't tell you because I knew you loved him. I didn't want to break your heart before he did." Evelyn's throat closed. Her hand covered her mouth, tears spilling silently. The video ended. Evelyn clicked the next file. This time her mother spoke directly to the camera, her face lined with exhaustion. "I've sent copies of these statements to my personal attorney," Marion said, "but I don't trust he'll survive Daniel's influence, so I hid this drive where only you would find it. If Marcus or Daniel ever discover it, they'll destroy it, because this, Evelyn, is their undoing." Evelyn sat back in her chair, shaking. Mrs. Lorne placed a hand on her shoulder. "Your mother was smarter than all of them combined." Evelyn nodded slowly. "And now, I'll finish what she started." She copied the files to the laptop and then to her phone. She watched every video, every TMI stamp, every notarized signature. There were statements from the family lawyer, copies of voice memos where Daniel threatened their mother, even a video clip of Marcus discussing falsified documents. Evelyn whispered, "She recorded everything." By dawn, the plan had already begun forming in her mind. The next morning, she drove to the city. Her clothes smelled faintly of smoke, her hair tied back, her eyes bloodshot but alive with purpose. She didn't go home. She didn't call Marcus. She went straight to a small law firm, one her mother had used years ago before Daniel replaced everyone loyal to her. The receptionist looked up nervously as Evelyn walked in. "Can I help you?" "I need to see Attorney James Delaney," Evelyn said. "Tell him it's about Marion Hales." The name alone was enough. 10 minutes later, she sat across from a man in his late 50s, gray-haired and tired but alert. "I knew your mother well," Delaney said. "She trusted me. I'm sorry for your loss." Evelyn nodded, pulling the USB from her coat. "She left me this. It's proof of everything Daniel and Marcus did." He raised an eyebrow. "Proof?" "Recordings, signed documents, video testimony, the forged will, everything." Delaney leaned forward. "If what you're saying is true, this could be enough to reopen her estate case and expose them both." "I don't just want exposure," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "I want them ruined." He studied her for a moment, then smiled faintly. "You've got her fire." She handed him a copy of the files. "Send this to the authorities, quietly. I'll handle the rest." Later that day, the first storm hit the internet. Headlines began popping up everywhere. "Family empire built on lies. New evidence reveals forged inheritance." "Hale's legacy under investigation. Son and son-in-law implicated in fraud." Within 24 hours, reporters were camped outside Daniel's company headquarters. He tried to deny everything, calling it a smear campaign. Marcus vanished from public view. Evelyn watched from her mother's old study, calm and silent. She had released only pieces of the truth, enough to shake them but not destroy them. Not yet. Mrs. Lorne walked in with a cup of tea. "You started a war," Evelyn smiled faintly. "No, I just gave them the first warning shot." That night, she made the call. She used a new phone number, a blocked line. Daniel answered after 2 rings, his voice tense. "Who is this?" "It's me," Evelyn said. There was a long pause. "Evelyn, what do you want?" "To talk," she said simply. "One last time." "I have nothing to say to you." "I think you do. I have something you'll want to see." Another pause. Then Daniel said, "Where?" "Lightkeeper Hill," she said. "Tomorrow night. Bring Marcus. Let's end this." He didn't answer, but she could almost hear his mind racing. "Fine," he said finally. "But if this is another one of your games—" "It's not," she said and hung up. When she turned, Mrs. Lorne was watching her from the doorway. "You know they'll come, armed, with lies, with lawyers, maybe worse." Evelyn nodded. "Good. Let them. I want them both there." She spent the next day preparing the house. She cleaned the study, repaired the wall where the hidden safe had been, and set up small cameras throughout the room. One behind the bookshelf, another in the chandelier, and a final one directly above the fireplace. By evening, she stood by the window, looking out over the ocean. The sunset painted the waves in red and gold. Her mother's words whispered through her memory. "The lightkeeper's job is to keep the flame alive, even in darkness," she whispered. "I'm ready now, Mom." At exactly 7:30, 2 cars pulled up the long driveway. Headlights cut through the dusk. Evelyn stood by the door, calm and still. Marcus was the first to enter, smiling like a man trying to hide panic. Daniel followed, looking tense but arrogant. "Nice of you to invite us," Marcus said, removing his coat. "You planning to apologize?" Evelyn's voice was steady. "Something like that." Daniel glanced around. "Why here?" "Because this is where it ends," he frowned. "You've caused a lot of trouble, Evelyn, leaking false information to the media. You've gone too far." "False?" she asked quietly. "You think so?" Marcus laughed softly. "You're playing with fire, sweetheart. Be careful not to burn yourself." Evelyn smiled faintly. "You should know. Fire doesn't scare me anymore." They exchanged a glance, confused by her calm. Marcus straightened his jacket. "Let's just get this over with. What do you want?" Evelyn gestured toward the dining room. "Dinner first, then we talk." The table was set for 3, candles flickering between silver dishes. She poured wine for each of them, her movements smooth, deliberate. The hidden cameras caught every angle. Marcus leaned back in his chair, watching her closely. "You look different," he said, colder. "I learned from the best," she said. Daniel smirked. "So what's this all about? You think you can bribe us? Beg your way back into the company?" Evelyn looked him straight in the eye. "I'm not here to beg. I'm here to end this." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "And what, exactly?" "You'll see." They ate in uneasy silence for a few minutes. Then Evelyn stood and walked to the study door. "I have something to show you both," she said, her tone light, almost casual. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "What now?" "You'll recognize it," she said. "You helped create it." She pressed a button on the remote she held behind her back. The lights dimmed. A projector flickered on, casting a shaky glow on the far wall. The screen came to life. Her, Mother's face appearing in full color, her eyes calm and filled with truth. Daniel froze. Marcus's fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. Marion Hales looked straight into the camera. "If you're watching this," she said, "my daughter survived your greed. I trusted the wrong son and the wrong husband. But Evelyn, I trust you'll know what to do." The room went dead silent. Evelyn stood by the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Dinner's over," she said quietly. Marcus's face went pale. Daniel's jaw clenched. "What is this?" Marcus snapped. Evelyn tilted her head. "The truth. Streamed live, by the way. You might want to smile." Marcus's face drained of color. He looked at the screen like it was something crawling toward him, something alive and dangerous. "Turn that off," he hissed. Evelyn didn't move. The video continued to play. Her mother's voice filled the room, calm and measured. "I loved you both, but love without honesty becomes poison. Daniel, I gave you everything you asked for, and still it wasn't enough. Marcus, I welcomed you into my home. I believed you cared for my daughter, but you cared only for what she could give you. You both took from me what wasn't yours, and now you will face the truth." Daniel slammed his glass down so hard the stem snapped. "You think this proves anything?" he said, shouted. "She's dead! She can't accuse anyone now." Evelyn's tone stayed even. "No, she can't, but I can." Marcus's jaw tightened. You really think people will believe you? You're unstable, Evelyn. You've been ranting to the press like a lunatic. She smiled faintly. I don't need them to believe me. I just need them to see. He frowned. See what? She stepped forward, her eyes locked on his. Everything. A light blinked on the small monitor by the projector. The words "Live Stream Active" glowed in bold white letters. Daniel froze. Wait, what is that? Evelyn's smile widened just enough. Thousands of people are watching right now. Your investors, the board members, the police. Marcus spun around, his face twisting with panic. You're lying. I learned from the best, she said softly. The feed switched automatically to a second video from the USB. Her mother again, but this time in an official interview with her attorney. This testimony is recorded under oath, Marion said. I, Marion Hales, declare that the final EV will in circulation was forged under coercion by Daniel Hales with the assistance of Marcus E.V. Hales. The family lawyer was threatened and forced to comply. The real will remains sealed under my authority, naming my daughter Evelyn as sole heir. Daniel's breath caught. Shut it off, he barked. Marcus lunged toward the projector, but Evelyn was faster. She blocked him, her voice cutting Evie through the chaos. Touch it and you'll only make yourself look guiltier. Marcus growled, his mask cracking. You have no idea what you've done. Actually, she said, I do. I just gave you both what you deserve. Each other. He froze, confused. What? Daniel's voice snapped like a whip. You said you'd handle this. You promised she couldn't touch us. Marcus turned on him, his temper flaring. Don't blame me. You're the one who started this. Mess with your threats and your stupid adoption lie. Daniel's face twisted. You were supposed to fix it. You're the one who wanted the money. I wanted what I earned, Marcus shouted. You were just too greedy to share. Evelyn stood motionless, watching as their alliance splintered right before her eyes. The men who had destroyed her life were destroying each other now, piece by piece. Marcus shoved Daniel hard, knocking over a chair. You think you're smarter than me? You're nothing without me. Daniel shoved him back, shouting, Without you, I'd still have everything. You ruined it. The fight turned ugly fast, shoving, yelling, curses echoing off the walls. Wine glasses shattered across the floor. The camera above caught every second, streaming it live to the world. Evelyn didn't flinch. She just stepped back, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. Marcus swung first. Daniel ducked and threw a punch that sent Marcus sprawling against the table. The candles toppled, flames licking at the linen. Smoke began to rise. Stop! Evelyn shouted, but they didn't. Daniel lunged again, grabbing Marcus by the collar. You were supposed to take care of her, he yelled. Now she's taking care of us. Marcus's fist came up fast, connecting with Daniel's jaw. The older man fell back, crashing into the projector table. The screen flickered, but the feed stayed live. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Evelyn's eyes followed the reflection of the flashing lights outside the window. She had called them 20 minutes before the dinner began, sending an anonymous tip that the suspects in an active inheritance fraud case would be at Lightkeeper Hill. She watched the chaos calmly, her breathing steady. Marcus looked up at her, blood at the corner of his mouth. You did this, he spat. You destroyed me. Evelyn's expression didn't change. No, Marcus, you destroyed yourself. Daniel tried to stand, swaying. This isn't over, he said, pointing at her. You think this makes you some kind of hero? You're nothing without us. Evelyn tilted her head slightly. You said that before. Look how that worked out. Red and blue lights filled the windows. Doors slammed outside. Heavy boots thundered down the hallway. Marcus turned to run, but the front doors burst open. Officers flooded in, guns raised. Freeze! Hands where we can see them! Daniel stumbled backward, yelling, "This is a mistake. She's setting us up." Marcus tried to grab his briefcase from the table, the same one filled with falsified contracts, but the police were faster. They slammed him against the wall, cuffing his wrists. Daniel resisted for a moment, shouting threats, but 2 officers tackled him to the ground. The dining room fell silent except for the crackle of the small fire on the table. One officer turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am, are you all right?" She nodded slowly. "I am now." Marcus twisted in his cuffs, glaring at her. "You think you've won?" he hissed. "You'll regret this." Evelyn looked at him, her face calm, her voice barely a whisper. "You taught me what power really looks like. Thank you." He stared at her, stunned, as they dragged him away. Daniel screamed curses until they pulled him outside, the echo of his rage fading down the hallway. When the door finally closed, silence settled over the room again. The only sound left was the ocean crashing beyond the cliffs. Evelyn stood alone amid the wreckage, overturned chairs, broken glass, the faint smell of smoke and salt. She walked to the table, picked up one of the fallen candles and blew it out. Mrs. Lorne appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide with relief. "It's done," she said softly. "They're gone." Evelyn nodded, looking toward the window where the police cars disappeared down the long road. "No," she said. "It's just beginning." Weeks later, headlines told the story to the world. Marcus Hales and Daniel Hales convicted in multi-million-dollar inheritance fraud. Forgery, blackmail, and betrayal. The fall of the Hales empire. Evelyn never spoke to the press. She didn't need to. Her silence said more than any statement could. Marcus's new lover left him the moment the trial began. Daniel's company shares were frozen, his assets seized. The empire they had built on deceit crumbled overnight. And Evelyn, the forgotten twin, the quiet one, reclaimed everything. She restored Lightkeeper Hill. The broken study became her new office. Her mother's photo hung above the fireplace. The painting of the Lightkeeper was repaired and placed back on the wall where it belonged. But she didn't keep the mansion for herself. She turned it into a foundation, a place for women rebuilding their lives after betrayal, after manipulation, after men like Marcus. Every corner of the estate carried her mother's memory. The main hall bore a brass plaque that read, "The Lightkeeper Foundation, for those finding their light again." Evelyn spent her days there, managing quietly, keeping the legacy alive. She never boasted, never gloated. Her revenge had never been about destruction. It had been about truth. One evening, long after the staff had left, she walked down to the cliffs. The wind was gentle, carrying the faint cry of seagulls. The lighthouse stood tall on the edge of the property, its white tower glowing faintly under the moon. She climbed the steps slowly, the old wood creaking beneath her feet. When she reached the top, she stepped into the lantern room. The sea stretched endlessly before her, calm and silver. Evelyn placed her hand on the cold metal railing and whispered, "We did it, Mom." A faint breeze moved through the room, brushing her hair. She smiled through quiet tears.